Hi, I'm Mike Sansone with Reaching Hearts. Have you ever caught yourself holding back from sharing something with your partner? Perhaps it's because you're afraid of how they might react or what they'd say. Maybe you've noticed your conversations just aren't feeling as deep or meaningful as they used to. If you're nodding your head yes right now, you're definitely not alone. Today, I want to talk about something I see all the time in my work with couples. There are four key fears that quietly sabotage communication in long-term relationships. But here's the good news. Once you recognize what these fears are, you can absolutely overcome them together. So grab your partner if they're around, or just take some notes to share with them later. Let's dive in. We're covering the four fears of communication, and the first fear is fear of complacency. This first fear might surprise you, and it's sneaky because it doesn't feel like a fear at all. You get so comfortable with your partner that you start operating on autopilot. You assume you already know everything about them, their thoughts, their reactions, what they want for dinner on Tuesday. But here's the truth bomb. People grow, evolve, and change. And the person you fell in love with 5 years ago or longer has had thousands of new experiences since then that have shaped them in ways you might not fully understand. I remember once working with a couple married for 12 years who realized they'd stopped asking each other interesting questions. When they started getting curious again, the husband was shocked to discover his wife had developed a passion for astronomy during late nights when she couldn't sleep. The solution? Stay wildly curious. Ask open-ended questions. What was the highlight of your day? Instead of how was work or how was your day? Create space for surprising answers. And remember, assuming you know everything about your partner is actually a form of disconnection, not connection. The second fear is a fear of being judged. This second fear kills great communication, and that's the fear of being judged. Have you ever stopped yourself from sharing a thought or desire or even a worry because you were afraid your partner might think less of you or different of you? Maybe you've been dismissed or misunderstood in the past, so you keep that vulnerable stuff locked away. But here's the truth. Real connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires safety. I remember Sarah, who kept her financial worries secret from her husband Alex for months because she was afraid he'd think she was bad with money. When she finally opened up, she discovered he'd been having similar concerns, but he was also afraid to bring them up. Together, they created a financial plan that brought them closer. The key here was this. Create a judgment-free zone in your relationship. If your partner shares something deep, respond with curiosity and care, not criticism. Try to tell me more about that instead of jumping to some solutions or judgments. And if you're the one holding back, start small. Share something mildly vulnerable. See how that goes and build that trust muscle gradually. Third fear is a fear of conflict. Our third fear here is probably the most common, the fear of conflict. We avoid tough conversations because we want to keep the peace or swallow our feelings. Let small irritations slide and pretend everything's fine when really it's not. But here's the paradox. Avoiding conflict doesn't create peace. It creates distance. Those unaddressed issues don't disappear. They build up like plaque, eventually hardening into resentment. And resentment is relationship kryptonite. The strongest couples I work with don't avoid disagreements. They've learned how to work through them with respect and care. There's actually opportunities in conflicts to create a deeper connection. They understand that conflict itself isn't the enemy. It's how you handle it that matters. One approach is to frame difficult conversations as us versus the problem. not me versus you. I'll say that again. Frame the difficult conversations as us versus the problem, not me versus you. Use the I statements instead of the you statements. I feel overlooked when, instead of the accusation of you always ignore me when. And remember, timing matters. Don't start important discussions when you're both exhausted or hungry. Trust me on that one. The fourth fear is a fear of losing the relationship. Maybe the deepest fear is simply the fear of losing a relationship itself. Sometimes we don't bring up certain topics because we're afraid that they'll create a crack in the foundation, or maybe the crack's already there and we don't want to fall off. We think, what if this conversation changes everything? What if they can't handle this part? But here's the beautiful irony. The relationships that survive long term are precisely the ones where both people feel free to bring their whole authentic selves to the table. I think of Jamie and Miguel, who avoided talking about their different visions for the future for years. When they finally had the courage to discuss it calmly, they discovered that honesty didn't break them apart. It actually brought them closer and helped them create a shared vision where they were both excited about their future. Remember this truth. Honest communication doesn't weaken strong relationships. It strengthens them. The things you're afraid to talk about are often exactly the things you need to discuss. So those are the 4 fears that sabotage communication in long-term relationships: complacency, judgment, conflict, and loss. Which one of these resonate with you the most? This is Mike Sansone with Reaching Hearts, and I'm on a mission to inspire a world where love isn't just a feeling, it's a daily practice. If this video helped you, please hit that subscribe button and give it a like. And if you want to explore more topics like this, check out my other videos on building emotional intimacy and having courageous conversations with each other. Until next time, keep being brave in your communication and keep building love that lasts. We'll see you in the next video.